Should you feel the guilt because you haven't done the research? Or is it the case that you as a consumer should be able to go and buy something that says it's halal and know that it is? And those people who are not providing you truly with halal food should be prosecuted with the full weight of the law coming crashing down upon their shoulders. Mohammed in Birmingham called in. 08459 440 445 is the phone number. We charge at a local rate, so it's just like calling your next door neighbour or your auntie down the street. And you can also text us and tell us to call you back, and we shall do that. Mohammed, good morning, sir.
Good morning to you as well, Nihal.
What do you think, Mohammed? I mean, as a Muslim consumer, it must make you pretty angry and frustrated that you can't be sure.
As a consumer, not just as a Muslim consumer.
Yes.
As a consumer, this makes everybody angry. And you're right, it's not just for the Muslims, it's for the whole community.
Yeah.
Now, what we are missing here is we don't have to rely any of the certification bodies, because we've got to bear in mind that all certification bodies are private and limited companies. So I'm not here to knock any one particular certification body. What I'm here to do is create a bit of awareness that it is an obligation on the local authorities to provide us with what it says on the packet, and that is exactly what it should be inside.
Well, you'd think so, yeah.
Those companies need to be prosecuted very heavily. Now, taking a step back, going back to halal, a guidance note was issued in 2003 by the Food Standards Agency giving clear guidelines on what is halal and what the trading standards officers should be looking for when they're doing their inspections. Now, this has been blatantly ignored by the authorities. Why? Because it's just a guidance note. Bearing in mind that when BSC came out, the mad cow's disease.
Yeah, of course, many years ago.
Was issued by Food Standards Agency, and we have to follow the letter of the law, to actually take advice and use it appropriately. And then why is it that we have to follow one advice and not the other?
Yeah.
We feel that we've been let down by the authorities, who have an obligation, not just to the Muslims, but to the whole community as to what they're eating. We have clear set guidelines within the law which are not being upheld or enforced. Now, where do we stand as far as that is concerned? Yes, we need to do our own, checks and balances, but the whole duty and the responsibility falls back onto the Food Standards Agency and the local authorities. They are responsible. It's their duty, not our duty. It's none of their business what is halal and what is not halal. Their business is to uphold the law and look after the interest of everybody within our community, whether they are Sikhs, Hindus, or Muslims, or Jews.
Yeah, I mean, it's really horrible, isn't it, that you're just trying to be a good Muslim, trying to do all the things or most of the things that you're asked of, and one simple thing you want is halal food.
Yeah, we live in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Let's not just focus on Muslims.
Yeah.
We live in Birmingham. It's a multicultural city. We're very proud, and I'm really outraged that if I'm going into a restaurant and I have a colleague of mine who's a Hindu or a Sikh, he has to eat beef. Whereas we're lucky, we're blessed that my colleagues look out for me and I look out for my colleagues. Now, that shouldn't be the case. The case and the responsibility, and there's laws for that particular reason, is that we need the authorities to give us assurances. It's time to build bridges now and to create that trust that's missing from the local authorities, and we pay for that out of our taxes.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you say this, Mohammed, because I've actually got this note that you were talking about. I've got a note from the Food Standards Agency saying the Food Standards Agency issued guidance for local authority enforcement officers on halal food issues back in 2003, like you said, 10 years ago. The mislabelling and misrepresentation of halal foods is of great importance to the Muslim community and continues to be an issue of concern. For this reason, we are reissuing the advice drawn up in association with relevant Muslim organisations, LGR and DEFRA. Food enforcement officers are requested to use this advice when planning inspections, food sampling label, take appropriate enforcement action. Do you believe, Mohammed, that the FSA are being strict enough with people who don't conform to these rules?
When it comes to Muslims, I think there's a clear case of Islamic phobia. This particular guidance note states quite clearly on there that no pork ingredients must be present in food. Straightforward. You don't need a certification body there. You don't need anybody else. We are going through a time of recession. To be part of a certification body, consumers have to pay for that. The butchers have to pay for that.
So you, just to be clear, sorry, Mohammed, just to be clear, you don't feel as though there should be any halal monitoring organisations. You feel it should be the FSA.
I'm not going to use a monitoring word. I'm not going to use authority or whatever because
they're particular. Yeah, but you know what I'm trying to say, that you feel that there doesn't need to be any kind of organisation, that it should just be the FSA.
If the law is upheld, everything is there to protect all consumers, not just Muslims, all consumers.
Yeah.
What we are saying is that if these guidelines are not being enforced, and this is not just one of the guidelines, I've heard many of your programs talk about religious slaughter. Now, going back to that, there's clear-cut guidelines states what is what. There's no need for... We believe in labelling. Everybody should know what they're eating.
Yeah.
That's our human basic right.
You would think so, wouldn't you? You would think so. But, Mohammed, we're going to have to leave it there. Abdullah in Birmingham has got in contact with us. 08459 440 445 is the number. This is clearly an issue of great concern to not just the Muslim community, but as Mohammed pointed out, to all people. You know, if non-Muslims are buying burgers with horse meat in them, and then Muslim people are worried that the food that's labelled as halal is not halal, then, you know, where are we at? I mean, Abdullah, good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning.
Do you feel nervous?
Absolutely. Yes, very nervous. Yeah.
What can you do about it, or what do you feel that government? Not what you can do about it. It's not your. It's not necessarily your job to do something about it. How can you genuinely know?
We have to